Hey guys, welcome back to our YouTube channel. My name is Ritik Shukla and you're watching The Data Nomad. So in this video, we are going to tackle a very interesting data scraping project as we are going to scrape data from Amazon.in. And as you all know that Amazon.in is a very big player in the market of e-commerce. So it also spends a hefty amount of money to prevent programmers like us from scraping these live websites, right? So we will also see some common methods that we can use to prevent our scrapers from getting their IP blocked and perform scraping seamlessly, right? So without wasting any more time, let me give you a quick demo and then we will get right into it. So let me just launch my spider. All right, so here you can see that we are able to get some results back. So for this project, we are going to scrape Amazon.in for the keyword pen drive. Here you can see that. And let me just crash the spider to see the results. So here you can see that we are getting the brand of the pen drive and hardware interface, memory, and the name of the pen drive and price in Indian rupees and the special features that are listed for that particular pen drive and the read and write speed of that pen drive, right? So this is what we are going to make in this video. So let's just jump right into it. Alright folks, so now we are going to take a look on the web structure of the Amazon.in and try to understand the steps that we need to take in order to reach the pages where all the products will be listed. So let's get to the Amazon.in. So this is the home page of the Amazon.in, and if we search for some product, let's say pen drive, so we will land on this page where all the pen drives are listed. And if you notice that we don't need to perform any authentication steps like logging in or entering some details to reach here. So another thing that you need to take a look at is the URL section. And you will notice that after the domain amazon.in, we get a parameter with the name k and its value is the keyword that we search for, that is pen drive. So let's play around with it a little bit and get rid of all the other parameters there. Let's change this parameter to some other product, let's say a pen. So you will notice that we get to the section where we search for pen in the search bar and we get a list of all the pens listed on the amazon.in, right? So we can use this keyword k uh, when we want to search for multiple products from this website. And let's get back to the previous page, and now let's try to understand how we can navigate between the pages, right? So if you scroll down to the bottom, you will see this pagination section from where we can just click to the next page to reach the second page too. Here you can see it in the URL section. Again, we get another keyword with the name page and the page number as well, right? So if we try to change the parameter 2 to 3 or some other page, we get the listings of page number 3 for pen drive. So we can either use the pagination section down here. Yeah, so we can either use this section for pagination or we can just change the value of the parameter page here to change between the pages. Alright guys, so now that we have a better understanding about the web structure of Amazon.in and how we can navigate between the pages, so let's get started with creating our virtual environment. So why do we need a virtual environment? So the reason is simple, that it is always a good practice to isolate the dependencies for every project from the rest of your local environment. And why is it so? Because it is sometimes possible that the dependencies that you have installed on your system and the dependencies that you might require to run some particular module for some particular project might get clashed, and you won't be able, your program won't be able to run correctly, right? So this is the main importance, and other than that, it makes sharing your project with other people more easier. And yeah, that are the main reasons. So let's get started with creating our virtual environment. So first, let me open my terminal. And here I'm going to use Ubuntu's WSL. And you, if you want, you can use command prompt or git bash or any other terminal you like, right? So to create a virtual environment, first you need to install the Python's virtual env package. So let's just do that. So I have already installed that package, and we can just start with creating our virtual environment. So the command to create a virtual environment is Python and the flag dash m. After that we need to specify the operation, that is creating virtual environment. So for that we need to type venv, and then we need to provide a name to our virtual environment folder. So I'm just going to name it .vn, and you can name it whatever you want. It does not really matter. All right, so in Linux we use Python 3. So here you can see that we have got our .vn folder created, and once activated, all the dependencies or packages that we will be installing will go right into this folder, right? So let's just activate it. So to activate our virtual environment, the command is source, and after that we need to specify the location of activate script. So if you're on a Linux or a MacBook, the location is inside this vn. We have bin and activate. And now here you can see that we have got a .vn mark right before our command prompt. And you need to keep in mind that if you are on a Windows terminal or if you are using a Windows PC, the location of this activate script is a little bit different. So the location on a Windows PC will be inside .vn. We have scripts folder, and inside it we have activate, right? So you can activate your virtual environment, and now we can get started with creating our first basic Scrapy spider. Alright guys, so now that we have our virtual environment in place, we can get into the programming section and create our first Scrapy spider. So for that, first we need to install the Scrapy package. Let's do that first. So now that our Scrapy package is installed, we can directly create our first Scrapy project using the command Scrapy start project. And then we need to provide a name to this project. So I'm just going to call it Amazon Scraper. So let's do that. Dash. Now once this command is run, you can see that we have got a folder created here with the name Amazon Scraper. And if you take a look into it, you can see that there is another Amazon Scraper folder, which is our main folder, and this is the folder that contains all the required files for this project, including items.py, middlewares.py, pipelines setting, and the folder where we can create our custom spiders, right? So let's cd into this spiders folder. So cd and Amazon Scraper, again Amazon Scraper, and then spider. And now we can create our first Scrapy spider using the command Scrapy gen spider. And then we need to provide a name to this spider. So I'm just going to call it Amazon spider. So let's give this name. And after this, we need to provide a URL for it to scrape. So the URL will be www.amazon.in. If you want, you can enter any random URL like www.example.in, example.com, or something like that. We just need to provide it anything that it can build the spider around. So once this command is run, you can see that we have got our first spider here by the name that we provided here, Amazon spider. And when we take a look into this, you can see that we have a Amazon spider class with the name Amazon spider, and the allowed domain and the starting URLs are the one that we provided here. So now our first task will be to make our spider land on the desired web page, right? So let me just open the web page that we want to enter, that is amazon.in. And if let's search for pen drive again. And now we can make our spider land on this page by using this URL. Let's just get rid of all the unnecessary parameters here. Yep. And this should be enough for us to land here. So let's get a hold of this and yeah, so let's define our first function of this spider, that is def start requests. So the start request is also a inbuilt function that comes with Scrapy, and this is used to start your spider and send your initial request. So if you don't define this start request function, the Scrapy spider will automatically send your initial request to the start URLs that you will be defining here, right? So now that we have our def start request, and let's just clean it up. And for what we need to do is first define the keyword that we want to search for. So let's get a variable keyword equals, and let's make it a dictionary, sorry, list, and define the words that we want. So first one will be pen drive, and that will be the only one for this project. And now run a for loop, word and keyword, and we will send the request to the amazon.in by changing that this k parameter with the words in the keyword list. So for word in word, URL will be this one, and just get this into, and we need to make it an f string to remove this here and get a word inside it, right? So now we just need to send our Scrapy's request to this URL. So for that we have Scrapy request, Scrapy dot request, and we need to define the URL where we want to send the request. So the URL will be the URL that we just created, and do we want to make a callback to some other function? Right now we don't, so let's just leave it be. And now what will happen is the request that this Scrapy request function will make will be returned to the spider here in the form of a response. So we can catch that response here. So we can use this response keyword here to get all the links that are present on this page that are linked to the web page for each product. So let's say we are at this SendDisk. We want the link up for this SendDisk pen drive, and here we are in class. Yeah, this is an anchor element with a href attribute. Okay, and if we click it, amazon.in. So for the testing purposes, what we can do is we can use Scrapy's a shell here to see if our CSS works or not, and then we can finally enter the right CSS into these parameters. So for that, first we need to enter the Scrapy's shell, and I just like to use IPython as a Scrapy shell. So to do that, first we need to install IPython. So pip3 IPython, and once this IPython module will be installed, we need to change our scrapy.cfg file, and here we need to set the shell as IPython. So just save it, close it, and let it install. Yeah, so our IPython module is installed, and now let's enter the shell. So for that the command is scrapy shell. Yep, here we entered the scrapy shell in the IPython, and now we can make a request to the current web page. Sorry, the function is not a request. In shell we use the fetch command, and then we specify the URL. C, control V, and yeah. So let it gather the info, and once the command is run, and we can see that we have got a message that crawl 200. So that's good, and the crawler has crawled this URL, and now we can get hold of all the uh, elements using the response.css, and if we want the href element here, we can use underline a normal link. Yeah, so we can use the CSS as h2 and then anchor. So let's run response.css, and inside the CSS we need to specify h2, and inside it we have an anchor and the href h2. Inside it we have an anchor, and and we want the attribute href, and dot get all. We'll get all the URLs listed with the similar CSS. So let's run it. Yep. So we can see that we have got a list of around 15 to 16 URLs, and if you click on any of these listing products, you can see that we have got a similar, you can see that the URL that we landed is similar at up until this point, and all the rest of the parameters are just supporting parameters, so we don't need to worry about them. So in the pass function, if we just run this line, we will get a hold of all the listed URLs, and we can catch it in another variable. Let's name it products, and now inside the product, and since we have got the URL for all the products, but now what we can do is we can create a product URL. So for PRT in products, product URL equals this here, C plus, sorry, plus, and after this we need the PRT. Yeah. And with this we have got the product URL for all the pages, and now we can run a response dot follow the URL and the RT URL, and inside this, let's say we do response dot follow, and the URL that we entered is this one, C, and we append this part, C, control V, sorry, that's it, and this one start follow. Right, so once we are at it, let's try to get a hold of this price here, and we can get the price with this class a price hole. So response dot css span with a class a dash price dash hole. Let's put this into and then dot get. Let's check it again, price dash hole, and let's run it. Okay. I didn't specify that we wanted the text out of it. Test colon colon text, and run it again. 489. Okay, so it looks like yeah, so the thing is that I didn't go to the right page, and yeah, this was the one, and yeah, so we are getting the price, and this should work just fine, and response.follow will land us to these pages. Okay, and inside this response.follow function we can also assign a callback function equals, let's name it parse parse product, and we need to put it in self dot parse product. So what this callback function does is, once the response.follow lands us to the product page, it will call the self dot parse product function and pass the return response to that function. So what we need to do now is create a new function, and we need to name it parse parse product and self element. And now we can use this parse product function to get all the details here. So first, let's get a hold of this pen drive's name, and we can use pan id title to get a hold of this name, right? So we can so we need to also provide the response keyword. Okay, so we can use any other name for the return response, but let's just go with response. And now we can use response dot css, and the css will be uh, h1 span id product title controls span id product title, and we just need the text of this element, and then we need to call the get function, right? And let's just print it by storing it in some variable name, and print name. Okay, so let's see if this works. First we need to exit out of this scrapy shell. For that we have the command exit, and we can run scrapy call, and let's run it and see if this works. Command call. Alright, so we are not in the main directory, that is cd Amazon scraper, and then again Amazon scraper, and now run the command. Alright, so when we try to run this spider, we are getting an error saying mentype object is not iterable in the self.start request. So the problem was that we forgot to just yield the response. So we just need to provide a yield here, and similarly we need to provide a yield here, and now we will be able to see the names and to identify the names more clearly in a whole lot of scripting. Let's use the print statements. Print slash and let's run the spider again. And now we crawl our first page again. Yep, and now we can see the name of the pen drives loading in our terminal here. Alright, so this works just fine. And next, alright, so we are able to get to the every products main page, and we are able to scrape details from this page. So now we will scrape the required details. That will be the name that we just scraped, and the price, and all of these tables details. So let's get to it. before we start scraping the other details from the web page, first we should make our items object. And why do we need an items object? I have already answered that question in our previous video where we scraped the booking.com website, and let me just explain it to you again in brief. So the reason is that if you make an items object, you are already defining the fields that you want to scrape from the every web page, and that makes our programming and the spider more formatted. And another very important reason is that if you make a typo while scraping the details in the spider file, the result will get stored with that typo itself, and you won't be able to notice anything because it won't throw any error. While if you are using the items object and you made a typo, then you will be able to see what you are doing wrong and you will be able to correct your mistakes. So that's the beauty of using items object. So let's make one. Open your items.py file, and here we are given a Amazon scraper item class, and if you want you can use this class, or you can just create a separate class. So let's just use this one for now, and all we need to do is define the fields that we want to scrape from the web page. So first will be the name of the pen drive. So here is the name field, and we just need to provide use the function scrapy.field to define the name. And other than that, we need name and price, and we have brand, memory storage, hardware, we have brand and memory and hardware, software, interface, hardware. Okay, it's just hardware interface. So let's hardware interface, and we have special features, and the last one is read speed. So we can just name it speed. And next we need to define all of these as scrapy field. So let's just do that. Yep. And let's remove this past keyword and save the file. Now that we have our items object created, we need to import it in our spider file. So for that we are going to use from Amazon scraper dot items import, and the name of our items object, that is Amazon scraper item, right? And in the parse product function we need to make an item object with this class, that is, let's just name it object equals Amazon scraper item. Yep. And after this we can just uh, fill the details of the attributes like object, and inside we have name as response.css. Yep. So let me just extract all the other required details from the web page, and then I'll explain it to you guys. So alright, so now that we have hold of all the required elements, let's give it a test run, and then if it works, I'll explain it to you guys how to get the CSS. So let's just give it a test run. Yep. So here you can see that we are getting all the details that we scraped here, including brand, hardware interface, memory, name, price, and special features, and the speed. Right. So now that our code works, let's see how did I get all of the CSS. So the first two fields, that is the name and price, were the easiest as they have a well-defined ID or a class that I use to get hold of these elements. So, so if we inspect the name of the product here, you will see that we have a span with a well-defined ID, that is product title. And similarly for the price, if we inspect it, we have a well-defined class as a whole price that I use to get hold of all these details. So for the rest of the details that are inside this table, we could have used the same strategy, that is use response.css and make custom css for all these details. So for example, if we want to get a hold of this brand here, what we could have done is, let me just open my scrapy shell first. Right, so if we fetch this web page, so to fetch a web page, all you need to do is run the fetch command with the URL of this web page that I just copied and pasted here. And once this command is run, yeah, you can see that we have crawled with the status code 200 and we are ready to get the details. So if I wanted to get a hold of this brand here, what I could have done is, let's inspect it, and I can make a custom CSS for it, uh, something like this. We can get a hold of tr with class po brand, and inside it we have td with a span 9, and inside it we have span. So response dot css, and inside it we have a tr with class po brand, and inside it we have td with class a span 9, and then we have a span, and we need to get a hold of text inside it and call the text get function. Let's close this. Yeah. Yeah, so you can see that we get hold of this brand here. And if we wanted to get a hold of this memory storage, all we need to do is replace this class uh, dot po brand with the class for this tr element, that is memory storage capacity, and we can just use this class, and keeping the other css elements same, we can get hold of all these elements. But I here use a slightly different approach. So what I did is I get hold of all the tr elements inside this table with these classes, a normal and a spacing micro. Right. So if you call this and store it inside a table, we can now iterate over table as a list, and let's use table, and for the first element we provide 0 as the index, and now we are inside this tr block. So from here, all the required css is same for all the required details in this table, right? So all we just need to do is specify the common css, that is td with class a span 9 and then a span again, right? Dot css and td dot a span 9 span, and we need to get the text inside it, and once I run it we get the real speed as the brand again, right? So either way is fine, whatever you like best you can use that. I'm just going with this table uh, method here, and yeah, that's how we get hold of the required details. And in the next section we will see how to make our spider crawl between the pages. section, we will take a look on how to make our spider perform pagination. So what is pagination? It is basically the process of moving from page 1 to page 2 and so on. So to perform pagination in Amazon.in, there are basically two ways. First one is when the scraper is done scraping the page number 1, we are actually right here after all the listings are ended, and this here is known as the pagination section. So what we can do is make our spider click the next button here, and we are directly at page number 2, right? And we can continue to do so for other pages, let's say third and fourth and so on. So if you notice that there are 20 pages for the keyword pen drive, and if I am at page number 20, I won't be able to click this next button anymore, right? So that's how we can use this pagination area, and let's try to do this in our Scrapy shell now. So let me open my Scrapy shell. All right. So now let's get hold of this. First, we need to go back to the page number 1. And now let's try to get hold of the CSS for this next button. So this next actually is an anchor element which is directly inside this span with class as pagination strip. So first let's fetch this page in our Scrapy shell. Let's just remove the non-required attributes. Yep, and get hold of this link. Control C, and here fetch and the link. Yep. So now that our spider has crawled this web page, we can use response.css to get hold of this anchor elements href attribute. So here I am using this span with class as pagination strip, and directly inside it we have the anchor element, right? And what is the specialty of anchor element? I mean, when we go to the next pages, here you can see that we have more than one anchor. So what we are going to use as an identifier for the next this next anchor is the class as pagination next here, right? So that's what I did here. Here you can see that span with class as pagination strip, and directly inside it we have an anchor with class as pagination next, and we want its href attribute. So let's run it, and here you can see that returned URL is s with the k pen drive and page equals 2. So now what we can do is we can add this returned URL into the base URL, that is, let's try to form a URL as, yeah, you can see that this is our base URL for the web page, and this line returns the URL for the next page, that is page number 2. So if we add both of them, we are returned with a URL, and we can call the URL to see what we are returned with here. So if we try to fetch it, fetch URL, and now you can see that we crawled this website for page number 2, and if we try to make this URL again, let's call it to see what URL is made, and here you can see that now the page is 3. So if we fetch the URL again, we are going to fetch the page number 3, right? So that's how we can get hold of all the pages from that pagination section by clicking the next button until we are able to get this anchor element, right? So as we have seen that at the page number 20, you won't be able to get this anchor element. So let's see how it looks like at page number 20. Here now the next button is not clickable, and you will see that it's just an span and we don't have this anchor for the next page, right? So that's how it works. And now the second option that we can do to perform pagination is directly use this URL here. So let me just go to the page number 1 again, and we can just run the scrapy request command for this URL with incrementing the attribute page. Let me just add page, and we can just increment the value of the page number. Let's say we add 2 and we are here. Let's say we add 3, we are at page number 3, right? So you can use any method you want, it's up to you, and but I'm going to use this second method, that is uh, calling the URL with the page attribute. So let's just do that here. So in the start request, for every word we need to run a for loop. Let's say we want to scrape the first 10 pages, so we can run the loop for range 10, and inside it we can create this URL and run this use scrapy request URL, and we need to add another attribute, that is page equals and then the page number, right? So we will be able to make a request for first 10 pages for every word, and all the rest of the functionality will remain same. So let's try to run it. First let me just get out of this scrapy shell, right? And now we need to run the scrapy crawl Amazon spider. Let's run it. All right, first, the one thing I forgot is it would be easier to see the output if I just collect it into an output file. So let's just name it output.json and now run it. Yep, we are getting some results here. All right, so it looks like we are able to get the results, but there are a whole lot of 503. Let's see how many of that. Yeah, we were only able to scrape the first 15. Let's see what could have gone wrong. Yeah, one more thing that I forgot to add is that the range will give us a number from 0 to 9, but we want to scrape from page 1 to 10, so we need to add 1 here, right? So let's run it again and see if it works. Alright, so we are able to get the results, but we are also getting a whole lot of 503 and error give up trying messages. So there might be a very good possibility that our IP is getting blocked. So let's take a look how to bypass this situation and how to prevent our IPs from getting blocked while scraping. So for that, first we need to understand why, when, and how our IPs gets blocked. So to understand how IP blocking works, let me just give you an example. So let's assume that your system is a person with a particular address, and the website that you are trying to scrape is some government office, let's say a mayor's office. So if a person sends too many requests to that mayor's office at the same time, they might entertain those requests in the starting, but after some time, they will get frustrated and notify the staff if any more request comes from this particular address, you should block them at the entrance only. Right, so that's how IP scraping works. And if you send too many requests to a particular web page or URL, and since they note the IP sender's IP address for each request, and if they notice that a huge amount of requests is coming from a particular IP address, they will definitely block that. Right, so one might think that it would be possible to bypass this checkpoint just by rotating your IP addresses, and that is correct to some extent, but it's not how the IP blocking works. So they not only just note your IP address, they also note all the other request headers that are sent with each request. So let me just show you. So if you go to the networks tab of web page, and let's just refresh the page. What you see here is the communication that is happening between my browser and the web server where this website is hosted. And click on if we click on any of these requests, let's say this one, these are all the headers that are sent with each request, right? So the web server will also note all these headers, and if they notice a common pattern between a huge amount of requests, they might block the further requests that will be having that common pattern, right? So that's how IP blocking works and request blocking works. So how can we get past it? So to do that, it's theoretically very simple. All you need to do is rotate your IP address and rotate all these headers. But in practice, it is a little complex, right? So first of all, you need to get a hold of all these fake request headers. And for every request you made, you need to rewrite the IP address and all these request headers randomly from the list of your fake request headers and IP address, right? So it is just a better option to use an external service provider such as ScrapeOps or Scraper API. So let's just take a look at one of them. So let's go to the ScrapeOps, and all you need to do is sign up with them, and you will get a your personal API key, and you can use this API to use any of their service that they provide. So they provide many services, like you can schedule and automate any job, and you can do the same for any spiders. They also provide the service where you can make and deploy your personal servers, and of course they provide proxy aggregators, and they also provide you fake headers API, which means that you can get hold of a list of fake request headers from this API. So we are just going to use the proxy aggregator here. So to do that, let's go to the docs panel, and we want to use the proxy API aggregators, and quick start. Inside it, we are using Python and Scrapy. So here you can see there are a list of methods that you can use to bypass the IP blocking, and they have around three to four methods here. So you can use any of these, and this website is very well documented, so you won't need any help. All you need to do is just take a quick read through these paragraphs, and you will be able to just implement in no time, right? So either you can use Scrapy's SDK installation settings. So for now, I'm just going to use this basic request wrapper method, and for that, all we need to do is just copy and paste this into our spiders file, right? And I need to uh, copy my API key from here and paste it into this API key, Control V, right? And we need to import and we need to import the URL encode method. URL with 3 dot parse port URL encode, and now we can use this get scrapeops URL to get a proxy URL for every request that we make. So here we are making a Scrapy request to this URL. All we need to do is call the get scrapeops URL method and pass this URL into as a parameter to this function, right? And we can just do the same here in the yield response part. So let's call the get scrapeops URL, and yeah. Now this should do the trick, and let's try to run our spider again. Let's just run it. Alright, so we did get an error and proxy. Alright, so it didn't work because the domain that we send the request to, that is the proxy's scrapeops IO, is not allowed in our allowed domain. So let's just comment it here and run this again. Yep, now we are able to make some get requests with 200 here, and we are able to get back the responses, and we have our output.json file created here. Open this output.json again, and you can see that the scrape details are loading automatically here. Let's try it again. Yep, so this works just fine for us, and let's just crash our spider. And if we take a look at the dashboard here, let's refresh it. We'll go to the proxy aggregator, and here you can see that in today's date we have made 42 successful requests and 7 failed attempts. Alright, so the best part about these proxy providers is that they provide you some free credits to check if your spider works or not, and if you like their service, you can just upgrade your free plan and continue to use their service, or you can just change your proxy provider, right? So that's how we deal with IP blocking. Alright, so now that our spider works and is immune to IP blocking, let's take a look at the output.json file. So first thing that you will notice is that our name field needs to be stripped from these starting and ending spaces, and other thing is that this list of JSON is not closed. So let's just do that, and this is because that we didn't let our scraper run to the end and just terminated it in the middle, right? So that's not an issue. When you will let your spider run to the last page that you have decided for it to run, it will automatically close this list. So to format our output, specifically the name field, let's go to our pipelines file and let's get to it. First we need to make an adapter. Item adapter, and now we need to provide the item that we want to format it, right? And now we can get hold of all the fields using items adapter. dot field names, right? And for field in fields, if field equals name, adapter dot get, and inside it we want the field name and we want to store it as value, and we want to update the value here. Adapter field equals value dot strip, right? This should strip our output name from this leading and trailing spaces, empty spaces. To make it work, last thing that we need to do is enable this pipeline, and that we can do it in our settings.py. All we need to do is find our item pipelines line, that there it is, and just uncomment it, right? There are many uses of using pipelines, like if you want to store your output not in a JSON or a CSV file, but if you want to load your output into some database, you will be using the pipelines for that too. So you can create more pipelines here, similar to this one, and to make it work, you will go to the settings file here and provide the path just down below here, and the number that we need to provide here will depend on the order that you want the pipelines to run. So let's say if I want to load the output into some external database, and I have created a separate pipeline for that, so I will provide a path similar to this, and the number should be greater than 300, and it does not need to be in a particular range or something. It's just the pipeline with the smallest number will be executed first, and the pipeline with the biggest number will be executed the last. So that's the concept of pipelines. And now that we have enabled our pipeline, let's delete this output.json file and run our spider again. Let me just crash it and update our settings.py, so that every time we run the scrapy crawl command, our output will be saved to a dedicated file, and we won't need to raise a dash o flag every time we run this command. So let's just use feeds equals, and inside it we need to create a open our curly braces, and we need to specify the name of the file, that is, let's just say results dot json, and we need to open another curly braces and define the format as json. Yeah, this should be colon here. Yep. And if you want, you can also specify another thing, that is append false, right? And if we run our spider again, and let's just remove this dash o flag and run it. Yep, we are crawling our pages, and soon we will get a results.json. Here you can see that we have got a results.json file, Yep. And we will get some results into it. Let the scraper run for some time. Now let's try to open our results.json, and you will see that we are having results into our results.json by default, right? So let me just crash this spider before I run out of my free credits. And we have scraped around 63 results. And now you can see that our name is formatted very well. And now let's just close this list. Alright guys, so now that our Scrapy spider is up and running, and now that I have run it 3 to 4 times, and I noticed that in our results.json file, our spider is not actually overwriting the file, it's just appending, right? So the reason of this is because it is not actually append to false. This needs to be overwrite here, and we need to set feed overwrite to true. Feed underscore overwrite equals true. Override needs to be true actually here. And now let's rerun it. So now that we have scraped some details again, let's just crash it and open our results.json. And yeah, we are overwriting the file now. Alright guys, so now that we have our spider up and running, and you might want to upload it to your Git or some other platform. So before doing that, make sure that you have your API keys removed from this script and saved into a .env file. And let me just show you how you can do that. So for that, first we need to install python.env package, right? So let's just do that. So let it download, and up until then, we can just create our uh, .env file, and you can save your API keys here. So API store key equals, and we need to copy paste our API key from this file. Control X and control. Now to get a hold of this API key from .env file into our spider file, we need to use OS module. So we need to import OS and from .env import load.env function. So, and we can call this load.env to load the .env file here. .env, and once this function is run, we can use os.get env, and we can specify the name of our API key, and we have just saved it with the variable API key. So let's call it, and this should be enough. Let's try to run it again and see if we get any problems. Yep, this is running correctly and we are crawling the pages with 200 status code and we started to get the results, right? So let's just crash it. All right. All right, guys. So that will be it for this video. And I thank you for watching this tutorial on how to scrape live websites like Amazon.in using Python and Scrapy. And I hope you found it useful and feel confident to start your own web scraping projects. Now, before we wrap up, I want to share some key tips that will help you in your journey, right? So first of all, create your .env file at the very start of the project, even if you don't need it at that moment. Right. So this is a crucial step because you never know when you might need to integrate an external service or manage sensitive information like API keys or login credentials. So it was foolish of me that I forgot to create that .env file at the beginning of this project, and we saw how it became necessary to later on. Right. So by setting up your .env file early, you can avoid potential headaches down the road. Now, secondly, always use the Scrapy shell to identify the CSS for particular element. And this is important because Scrapy shell allows you to interact with the website in real time and test your selectors instantly. Now by doing this, you can ensure you are targeting the correct elements and avoid potential errors in your scraping script. So it's a real time saver and can help you debug issues more efficiently, right? So lastly, keep your methods as simple as possible. Simplicity in your code is essential for several reasons, right? Because simpler methods are easier to read and understand, which makes maintaining and updating your code more straightforward. Now, it also reduces the likelihood of introducing bugs, as complex method can often lead to unintended side effects, right? So, by breaking down your tasks into smaller, manageable functions, you can build a more robust and reliable scraper. So I hope these tips helps you continue to explore web scraping. And if you have any questions or need further clarification, feel free to leave a comment below. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more such tutorials on web scraping, data science, and automation. So thank you for watching and happy scraping.